Parth, you mentioned that you oversee a workforce of more than 1,300 professionals delivering millions and millions of dollars of capital projects. Talk about how you can sustain kind of high performance with a team like that, with those kind of pressures, without having burnout on your teams. That's something I think a lot of leaders can struggle with.
I think it all starts with having the right team around you, right? There's no way that I can kind of do what each of those employees, collectively can do. I think communicating is a big part of it. I cannot talk to every single one of those 1,300 employees every day, every week, or even, in the span of a year. But it's extremely important to me to have a big picture vision for them.
What does it really take to lead more than 1,300 professionals delivering over $1 billion in capital projects every year and still sustain high performance without burning out your team? In today's AEC environment, the pressure to deliver faster, safer, and more efficiently has never been higher. Yet the real leadership challenge isn't just managing projects, it's building people and culture at scale. In this episode, I'll be talking with Parth Oza, licensed professional engineer, assistant commissioner, capital program management at the New Jersey Department of Transportation. Parth oversees a multi-billion-dollar project pipeline and plays a key role in shaping transportation delivery across the state. Parth's going to talk about how his organization builds intentional pathways for staff success, fosters collaboration across divisions to eliminate silos, and empowers project managers to take ownership of strategic initiatives that drive meaningful impact. Parth has also agreed to serve as a panelist on our AEC PM Connect event in New Jersey on June 10th at the Forest Gate Country Club. The panel that Parth will serve on will talk about the collaboration between public sector and private sector project managers on infrastructure projects. If you're not familiar with AEC PM Connect, it's an event that we've created to bring project managers in the industry together to discuss trending topics like risk management, AI in project management, and other things that are going on that you must be aware of. So before we jump into the interview with Parth, I do want to give you a quick word from one of our AEC PM Connect sponsors, Pennoni. Since Pennoni's founding more than 5 decades ago, clients have trusted Pennoni's commitment to elevating the impact of projects in the communities they serve. By partnering closely with their clients, they build relationships grounded in trust and longevity. Pennoni approaches the start of every project as the beginning of a collaboration. With rapid changes in technology, Pennoni's clients know they are getting innovative methods for delivering quality services and smart, sustainable, and resilient solutions. Pennoni is relentless in its aim to bring fresh perspectives and new technologies. The firm measures achievement through innovation, efficiency, and excellence. Its milestones are bigger than any one project, and every project affects the community, no matter how large or small. For more information, visit Pennoni.com. That's Pennoni.com. I'm your host, Anthony Fasano, and this is the AEC Leadership Podcast. And I'd like to welcome our guest onto the show for today. Parth Oza is a licensed professional engineer. He is the Assistant Commissioner, Capital Program Management at the New Jersey Department of Transportation. Parth, welcome to the AEC Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate you having me on, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, really excited to have you here. And I guess the first thing that we'd love to talk about here is just for our audience, Parth, maybe you could talk a little bit about yes, what you do at the DOT, but also kind of your career journey, like what got you to this point today, your background a bit.
Sure. So my interest in engineering really went back to my high school days. I was a part of the first robotics team. So we would build, life-size robots. We would have 6 weeks to build these robots. That really got my mind, thinking about engineering and how things work. And then I took a marketing class where we had to design a cereal box. So that got me thinking, I really like business side of things too, right? So I was kind of torn, engineering, business. I leaned on the engineering side, went to Rutgers, where I got my bachelor's degree, got involved in a lot of curriculum, a lot of extracurricular activities. I took a class called Smart Sensors in Civil Engineering, where we got to go out on the turnpike, install these sensors. I worked in the concrete lab, mixing concrete. So that really got me excited in the field of civil engineering. I remember one of my classmates worked in the recreation center, He's like, I have access to this Olympic-sized swimming pool. You have access to all the engineering students. Why don't we build cardboard canoe races for Engineers Week?
Wow.
This was over a decade ago, right? We made it happen over a decade ago, and every year they hold this. And to this date, they still hold cardboard canoe races
Wow.
to bring engineering students and alum back to campus. So it's phenomenal. And that's really what got me, energized, interested in engineering.
That's
And then
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, and part one thing I just want to mention because I know a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, have volunteered in these different programs. It's great to hear you say that, the robotics program was something that got you interested, right? Because I know that a lot of our listeners, they do take the time, right, to get out there and volunteer. And as you can see, it makes a difference, right? It gets people interested, it gets people engaged. So it's exciting to hear that part.
right, right.
So tell us about the DOT. Tell us about your role there. I know you're involved. I know it's a really interesting role that you have.
Yeah, so I started my career as a trainee. I worked in the contracting industry for a contractor for a little bit prior to joining the department. I've been here nearly 13 years. Started out as a trainee, kind of worked around the state in maintenance and operations until my most recent role as assistant commissioner, where I oversee over 1,300 people who are in charge of delivering the capital program. So what does that really mean, right? Capital program. We're talking 600 plus projects from planning, engineering, design, buying the right of way, coordinating utilities, getting the environmental permits, inspecting our bridges, our roadways, and then building projects, road projects, bridge projects, and everything in between.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, just thinking about that as an engineer, that's a lot going on. I definitely want to, dig into that with you a little bit. But one thing I will say also about Parth's career that he mentioned that I think is really valuable is some of the hands-on things that you did, right? The concrete, working for the contractor early on. I know this is a leadership podcast for all different types of engineers. Parth and I both happen to have a civil engineering background. And I know in civil engineering, having that field experience or being out in the field at any point in time can really, you know, enlighten you when you get into the office and start thinking about design and the other aspects of it because you really have seen things put together. So I would say for any of you out there, regardless really of your discipline, if you can get some hands-on experience in your career at any time, it's not only going to help you to do your job better, but it's probably going to help you to be a better leader of engineering teams because you can really talk the language, you know what's going on out there. And that's I would imagine for you, Part, that was a valuable piece of your experience.
Absolutely. It makes me that much more relatable, right? When I work with my colleagues here, I've seen a lot of what they're going through firsthand. I've been out there. I've seen bridges get hit. I've seen concrete being poured. I've seen, asphalt being laid. So when I'm talking that language with the team here, I'm not just, reading out of a spec book. I've kind of seen it firsthand and it makes that much more valuable for me, but also for my colleagues that work alongside me.
Absolutely. So, Parth, when you look back at what you thought the engineering profession was going to be versus what you've actually found it to be, any surprises? Anything that surprised you?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is the number of lives that engineers touch, right? Going to school, I didn't really think about that. It was more about calculus, doing complex equations, things of that nature. But if you really think about it, the role that an engineer plays, uh, talking, very narrow scope of just civil engineers, we put out about $1 billion in construction work every year. That's a billion with a capital B, and about 400 to $500 million in consultant services. That's not just work going out to fix our infrastructure, but if you think about the paychecks that the laborers are earning, the union workers are earning, the vendors that supply material, the professionals that go into designing these projects, the subcontractors, the subconsultants, the number of lives that just this industry touches, and j- the economic benefit that comes out of it. I'm just talking civil engineers,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
You expand that scope to biomedical engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. Just engineers play a vital role in not only the economy but in every single person's livelihood, from the day they're born, to as they develop. You know,
Yeah, I mean, you're right on with that. And what I really like about what you said there is I think the whole idea of, engineers do calculus and calculations is just a very narrow part of what engineers do, right? But when you go to school and you say, "Hey, I like math, I like science," it's like, "Oh, you're going to be an engineer." And that's a big part of the foundation of what we do. But to Parth's point, like you're impacting people every day, right? I remember one of my kids once asked me, what do civil engineers do? And I was like, look outside. Really,
Right.
right? Every road, like everything you see, buildings, roadways, like, the stormwater, the drains, everything is impacted and you're impacting people's lives. And that was one of the things I always liked about engineering was I could design something and then I can kind of see it being built and kind of see the impact that I had. And I know in our space, civil transportation, like you design a roadway, you improve a roadway, you're saving people's lives, literally.
Right.
Right. And that's
Yep.
that's really powerful. And that's a real powerful thing about coming to work every day. So I like that you emphasize that because I do think sometimes engineering kind of gets boxed into the calculations, but it's really about affecting society, essentially.
Right.
So Parth, you mentioned that you oversee a workforce of more than 1,300 professionals delivering millions and millions of dollars of capital projects. Talk about how you can sustain kind of high performance with a team like that, with those kind of pressures without having burnout on your teams. That's something I think a lot of leaders can struggle with.
Yeah, I think that's a great question and a great topic. I think it all starts with having the right team around you, right? There's no way that I can kind of do what each of those employees, collectively can do, but kind of having that trust and that integrity and building the right team around you, I think goes a long way in being able to be successful through those high pressure points. I think communicating is a big part of it. Again, I cannot talk to every single one of those 1,300 employees every day, every week, or even, in the span of a year. I may not get to see all of the employees, but it's extremely important to me to have a big picture vision for the department, for the organization, and really communicate that not just with my direct reports, who are all the directors that report up to me, but try to get that message down within the organization as deep and as low as we can in multiple different ways to make sure that the message is clear, that we're forward thinking, and that we're all working towards the same goal in the next month, the next 6 months, the next year, the next 2 years.
In the AEC industry, skilled project managers are the backbone of success. EMI's AEC PM certification offers tailored training, ongoing support, and exclusive access to premium content that keeps your team sharp and effective. From foundational training to advanced leadership tools, set your team apart with certified growth. Learn more at aecpm.com. That's aecpm.com. I really agree with that 100% in terms of team building, right? When you are a leader, you absolutely need to surround yourself with the right people. You need to take time building up teams. I did a kind of a training yesterday for a team on delegation, how to delegate
Right.
effectively, right? It's really something that we struggle with as technical professionals because we do like the details, like we were just talking about
Right.
earlier. And sometimes at some point in your career, someone's probably going to say to you, you have to give those up if you go on a project management or a leadership type track. And so that can be challenging. But at the same time, to Parth's point, I think when you do have a team around you, you have an opportunity to develop that team, right? And that goes back
Right.
to kind of what we spoke about earlier too, is like you have an impact on those people. So it's not just the people that you're designing projects for in society, it's the people that you interact with on a daily basis. You can grow them, you can push them to be a little bit uncomfortable, right? And get them, hey, listen, I need you to speak in front of the board or whatever it is for this meeting.
Right.
I can't be there, or I'll be there, but I want you to help out, right?
Right.
So I would definitely agree with Parth and tell the leaders out there, build a team right around you. You're not going to be the one that's going to be able to do everything forever because you're just not going to grow, right? You can't be managing 1,300 people and keep doing all the stuff you always used to do. You're going to have to
Right.
lean on more and more people. So that's something that I would really challenge all of you out there listening to, because I know for us as engineers, it's not an easy thing to do when you have to start to delegate things.
Right. And really understanding people's strengths and weaknesses, right? That
Yeah.
goes hand in hand with that. Not everyone's going to be able to do the same things well. Not everyone's going to, be successful at the same things, but kind of understanding what everyone brings to the table and as a collective whole being successful. That's really what it's about.
Right, and unfortunately, there was no class in engineering school on that one, so so the as I like to say, there's no equation for that one. It's very much a person by person basis, but
Right.
I think it comes with experience. right?
Yep.
And the more things you get involved with, the better. The more activities you engage with, the better. You get involved even with some of these professional societies out there, right? You get on committees, you help with things, you get to interact with more people. You got to kind of put yourself in these situations so that you could do exactly what Parth is describing, be able to kind of read people a little bit, understand their strengths. Hey, listen, this person's maybe a little bit better at this than the other person, but then this person I can rely on for something else, right? And that's a huge part of leadership and project management, actually.
Right.
Really important. So you have managed people, obviously. We've talked about that now. Can you maybe share some leadership habits that you've developed over time to kind of stay effective and grounded while you're managing such a large and complex project portfolio? I mean, you've really had to do this kind of on the job working with people. What are some of the habits that you've developed?
I think communication, again, I'll go back to communication. That's extremely important. And communication could mean a lot of different things. It's the form of communication, right? Certain people, engineers, perhaps, we love email. So we go behind, open up Outlook and start typing away. But sometimes that's not really the best way to communicate. Picking up the phone, talking in person, face to face, really. And it's not just the form of communication; it's who you communicate with. Like I said, I can't really talk to all 1,300 people every time I want to get a message across. I rely on the directors that report directly up to me, but I take the time to meet with the managers under those directors as well. And we instituted this new forum to kind of harp on that communication piece. We have quarterly managers meetings with not just the directors, but we include the next level down, which is the managers. But then I encourage the managers to invite a rising star within their unit. So, and that's where it gets really interesting because that exposes people who are pretty low on the totem pole, but it gives them exposure to what's really going on at the organization. And again, it goes back to communicating. They might pick up a tidbit here and there from those meetings and take it back to them. And it just makes us that much more robust. If everyone has the same message, the same vision, and we're all kind of going in the same direction.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, obviously, because we do a lot of development work here, I'm a huge believer in training and development, but there's nothing like hands-on experience. And as a leader, like Parth's example, you can create avenues for people. Come to a meeting, bring this person to a meeting, right? When we start the meeting today, we're going to maybe have the managers kick it off with like a 5 minute, overview, what were some of your wins for this week or whatever the case may be. But you have the ability to run the meeting yourself or get other people involved, right? And that's how you can start to develop people and really build that team that Parth talked about earlier so that if you do oversee 1,300 people, you have a lot of other managers and leaders that can help you along the way and that are helping you along the way because you just can't, interact with everybody. And so I think that that's a really good takeaway there is that when you show up to work every day as a leader, you need to think about how you can develop the other people around you. And I think that that's to me is one of the exciting things about leadership is not just, hey, let me see how many things I can get off my plate today. It's more about let me see how I can kind of push the team a little bit, push them outside of their comfort zone, maybe make them do something that they're not comfortable with, all with the idea of developing. And I love Parth's idea of, hey, bring a rising star with you. Yeah, that's powerful because that's going to get them unlocked to something else, right? That they're not familiar with before. And then they might get excited about, wow, I can get into these meetings. I can provide some value. I'm on the right track here, so to speak.
Right.
So, speaking of the right track, when you work in an organization your size that includes, late career experts, early career hires, how can you build kind of pathways for long-term success throughout the organization? I think engineers want to know where their careers are headed. What can you offer on that?
Yeah. So when it comes to that, I think there are structured formats to do that. And then there's informal, organic ways of accomplishing that. So the structured formats are, we have mentorship programs, leadership development programs to kind of help foster that. The unstructured, inorganic ways are one example is what I just shared. The meetings bring a rising star with you, get exposure to some of the experienced folks. We also have folks that attend, workshops, conferences, training events all over the country, right? Unfortunately, not the entire organization can't go to those. We have one or two people go,
Right.
here and there. But what's important is that they bring that knowledge back to the department. So we hold what's called knowledge sharing sessions. So if you traveled, you went to a conference, you come back and you present to your colleagues for 5 minutes what you learned, what you got out of it, what can we benefit from. Uh, and that serves multiple purposes, right? It gives that exposure to some of the lower mid-level folks to the leadership team. It puts them outside their comfort zone because they had to get in front of a room and present. Because one day at those conferences, they might be presenting, a session. Uh, but it also kind of builds that camaraderie amongst our coworkers in this hybrid work environment where we may not get to see each other every single day. It fosters that. And I think that's extremely important to be able to do that. To give you an example, we had a colleague we celebrate, we give employees recognition awards for years of service. And recently we gave a traffic engineer a 50-year service award.
Wow.
So he's been with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for 50 years.
Wow.
He started in traffic engineering and he's still in traffic engineering today. So that's a perfect example, right? He has so much experience, knowledge over those 50 years. And there are so many newer engineers that could benefit from his experiences. So we, encourage folks to, hey, go get a cup of coffee with him and kind of learn from him, see what he did over time and see what you can get out of it. And that's extremely important.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and I'm glad you used that term knowledge sharing because I think in working with a lot of AEC organizations, I think it's one of the biggest pitfalls of these organizations today is that they're not connecting the dots and sharing the knowledge that they've built up. And your example is a perfect one, right? Like this gentleman probably has amazing wisdom that he's built up over the years. And if it's just trapped in here, it can only do so much good, right? But facilitating avenues for him to be able to mentor others is so valuable. And I see the same thing with companies we work with, where there's an engineer sitting in Florida dealing with the problem that one of their engineers in New York dealt with a year ago, right? And if they
Right.
kind of could make that connection, it can really facilitate learning, and it's something that we need to be intentional about. In fact, I just emailed one of our PM instructors who retired and I asked her if she'd be willing to write an article on lessons learned from a career of project management, right? Because I think part of what we need to do as leaders is share that knowledge, right? Pass it on, figure out
Right.
ways to unlock that. And like you said, some of it you can have like formal career paths and formal programs, but other ways just has to be like, hey, let's get together and grab lunch or get a cup of coffee, or we're going to do a lunch and learn today and just let, John or whoever that might be, just talk through some of the things that they've learned in their careers. I think that's super valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in this day and age where we have multi-generational, we have folks with 50 years of service, like I shared, and we have folks that are just starting right out of school. So we have a whole realm of folks with different experiences. And, the younger folks, the newer folks could learn from the seasoned folks, but there's a lot that the seasoned folks learn from the newer generation of employees as well. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I was
Yeah,
going to say that too. Don't make assumptions that only
right,
the younger teams can learn from the more experienced teams because it is. And I think, I mean, some of the things that a more senior person or experienced person can learn from someone, even with regards to technology, right?
right,
Like, or some of the things that some of these newer, less experienced team members have maybe learned in school that wasn't taught, like when I may have went to school, right? Type of thing. So I think, and how I would categorize that really is being open-minded, right? As a leader, I think that's important because you always want to keep learning and you always want to think you have more to learn, even if you've been doing this for 40 years.
right,
And to me, that's what makes for great leaders is they're always looking to learn and always looking to improve every single day of their careers, quite frankly.
right. Absolutely.
So Parth, one of the things that I always love asking someone in your position is, you're working, you have 9 divisions, you're trying to foster collaboration across these different divisions and really prevent these silos from kind of slowing down decision making and delivery. We see silos all the time in different agencies and organizations. You know, how do you foster that collaboration and try to avoid the silo situation?
Yeah, that's extremely important because I think every division has their own perspectives and, their priorities are always at the top, and they are. But again, going back to communication, we get together every week, all the directors get together and we talk about ongoing challenges in our respective in the respective divisions and kind of hash things out. Quarterly, we bring in the next layer, we bring in the managers, and we really try to have cross-functional opportunities. So one example is project delivery, right? How can we speed up how we deliver our projects. That's something we look at constantly here at DOT and really all over the state and the country. How can we do things a little bit faster? So we bring in folks from all 9 divisions, subject matter experts, put them all, put together cross-functional teams, and they work together to come up with ideas of, hey, how can we deliver projects faster? Because everyone brings a different perspective, and it's not that one person or division is right over the other. Everyone has their own challenges, but that's where having that opportunity to have those discussions, um, and it's not a one and done type of thing either, right? The groups meet regularly, so that we can, ensure that we're always looking at, hey, how can we speed up processes and deliver work faster?
Hmm. That's great. I love that. And really, I think the key thing you said there is you bring people together, right?
Right.
Bring everybody around the table, have people talk with each other, brainstorm, collaborate. Again, it's kind of been a theme of our conversation today, but you have to create these avenues for these types of things to happen, right? Or else
Right.
they may not happen. And I think that's what's to me also exciting about leadership, right? Is you have the ability to bring people together, right? That might not come together if it wasn't for you.
Right. Yep.
And, the larger the organization, sometimes the more difficult it can absolutely become. And so I like how you describe it there around project delivery. So I want to go back to mentorship again. You mentioned it already. It comes up a lot in the shows that we do. How can you structure mentorship so that it can strengthen both the technical competence, which people need in our industry, but also like leadership confidence in these emerging professionals? Because I think they really need to be developed, in both ways.
Right. So recently we had a leadership development academy where we put together a course and different leaders from the organization kind of participated. We opened up nominations to all the employees. I think we had over 50 to 60 applicants for a
Huh.
class size of 15. So we had to kind of narrow who was able to participate. And it was over several weeks, right? So there were different, workshops, training events. But I think the most memorable piece of that was that the participants got to shadow senior leadership. So I had someone kind of tag along with me for half a day, and they got to see what my day is like for half a day.
Hmm.
So, and I think that was really impactful for me, but also for the folks that were following me around, because it's not every day is different, every hour is different.
Yeah.
You could be meeting internally with folks, you could be meeting with external stakeholders, you could have field meetings.
Right.
So it not only gave them the exposure to me, but then we chatted right in between meetings, like, hey, this is what happens. This is why I did what I did, or this is why I said what I said. And those relationships last beyond the actual formal leadership development class, right? Because that cohort of 15 people that were part of it, they still communicate. They still reach out to me once in a while if they have questions. So it builds those relationships internally within the organization, to kind of help their development.
I think that's great. And what I love about that example you gave with the shadowing is that I think something in our industry that's challenging is that, and you referenced this maybe earlier on today, is you go to school for engineering, but you really don't know what it's going to look like, right, when you get out there, right? Because you
Right.
don't know, because maybe you had an internship, but it's not just doing calculations, it's not just doing reports, it's talking to people, it's interacting with people, it's going to meetings. And unless someone could really shadow someone and spend some time with them, you really don't get to see all the exciting things that someone may work on as an engineer that you wouldn't know if you didn't know. So I think creating opportunities like that is really valuable because it excites people about their career opportunities. It opens them up to things that they didn't know that they were going to be able to get into.
Right.
And, my fear for the engineering world is if people don't know about those opportunities, they just give up because they're like, oh, this career is going to be boring. I could do something and something else that's more exciting, AI, something. I mean, obviously AI is in our industry, but just, getting out of our industry. And so I think it's great for any organization that can facilitate mentoring, shadowing opportunities for your current employees, for interns, right?
Right.
College students, anything you can do to excite people about what we do in engineering and infrastructure. It is exciting, but we need to show people what it is. And that's the
Right.
value of that.
Yeah, and then I think to that point, I make it a priority for myself when professors from various universities invite me to their classes to talk about engineering. Right, my goal is to go in there and make it and demonstrate how exciting it really is, It's not just about the calculus, the math and the science, but we really have an impactful career, regardless of if it's civil or any other discipline. We make a difference in people's lives. There's a lot of technology heavy solutions within the field of civil engineering that we rely on. So I make it an effort to go out to those college classes and talk about engineering, my role, what I do, the day to day, to really excite whether it's freshmen who don't know what they want to major in, or it's juniors and seniors that are looking to get started in their career.
That's great. So, Parth, last question that I have for you as we start to wrap up here is, if you were to sit down with a group of, let's say less experienced or younger engineers that are excited about leadership opportunities in their career, they want to become a manager, they want to become a leader, what advice would you offer to them, just from your experience as a leader, of things that they should work on and things that they should think about to go from that technical professional to that kind of project manager / leader?
Right. I would recommend, work hard, do your job, be technically sound, but really branch out of the unit or the group of people that you work with on a regular basis. Business is all about relationships, right? So get to know people that you don't interact with on a daily basis. Find someone that works in a different unit or a different floor, introduce yourself, get to know them. Your reputation follows you wherever you go. Don't burn any bridges. Don't, because that will stay with you forever. But if you're always, working hard, doing the right thing, learning, expanding your horizon, getting to know your colleagues, whether they work in your chain of command or they do not, is going to help you succeed and help you get to the next level.
Awesome. Well, once again, he is Parth Oza. Parth is a licensed professional engineer, assistant commissioner, capital program management at the New Jersey DOT. He's also agreed to serve on a panel that's going to talk about public and private interaction in project management at our AEC PM Connect event in June at Forest Gate Country Club. Parth, taking the time to come on the podcast, share some of your knowledge of leadership and engineering with our audience, and thanks for agreeing to do the panel. We look forward to seeing you in June. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Parth. He is an awesome engineer and a great leader. And we're thrilled that he came on the show today. We're also thrilled to have him speak at AEC PM Connect, which you can come and join us at the Forest Gate Country Club on June 10th in New Jersey. You can find out more information at aecpmconnect.com. And if you enjoyed this interview, please subscribe to our channel here. We do put out videos like this on a regular basis to help engineering professionals become better leaders. I'll see you next week.